Hello, everybody. Welcome. Today is June 18th, 2018. Um, Welcome. Today's show is another election night sort of uh, carry on or path, just continuation, I guess you would say. Right, Kevin? We have a lot of that still going on. Some hot issues on the air, um, and a lot of stuff going on today. Can't hear you. I can't hear, anyways. Okay. Guys, while Kevin's having some sound issues there, we will continue on. Today on the show, we have Conscious OS, which is a cool DApp that's on its way out to on EOS. Hey, Kev.
How am I doing now?
Yeah, you're doing good.
Okay, yeah, thanks. EOS Radio 16, man. You talking about the latest updates from today with the governance and all that?
Right, yeah. So there was,
Yeah.
I just gave a little hint to that. I guess we'll talk more about it later on in the show.
Yeah, I think so. We have Thomas Cox will come on shortly after that. ECAF releases their arbitration statement about the whole situation, and then we'll get some clarity then from him. We have Conscious OS coming up first, though.
Right.
They're a DApp based on meditation. Have you spoken with them before?
No, this is one of our buddies. Not buddies, but this is one of our contacts put us in touch with these guys. I don't know too much about them, but they do sound like they have a really cool app on its way. Then
I
we'll
agree.
talk a little bit more about election leaderboard discussion. Um, yep,
Yep.
some BP stuff, and yeah, and then we have someone else on the show, Kev.
Yep. So we have DUCATUR is coming on as well. They'll be after Conscious OS. DUCATUR is a group that is they won third place in the EOS hackathon in Hong Kong,
All right.
and so I guess they'll be going on to the finals later this year. And then we also have EOS Emerge from Poland. They'll be on third. And it's a block producer candidate, and then of course Thomas Cox. So we have a pretty packed show. I mean, we've talked about before how we might reduce the show time a little bit. Go towards 2 hours, maybe a little bit less, but it looks like it'll be a long show. There's a lot of stuff to talk about tonight, especially with Thomas as well. So we'll see how it turns out. What are you most excited about talking about? I mean, have you followed along with this recent thing about the arbitration, and then the block producers made a decision yesterday?
Yes, I have been following along, but Kevin, it's a special day today for it's your birthday, I believe, and Top K-pop made a special GIF here for you. So here you go. I don't know, you'll probably see it. It's your face with dancing on on a little GIF there. So
Okay, all right. I don't see anything right now, but I'm sure it's amazing. Yeah, if Top K-pop made it, then I'm sure it's really good.
happy birthday, Kevin.
Thank you, man. Yeah, thanks a lot. Thank you. I'm 105 years old today, so I'm getting up there.
Let's see that again. Everyone in the chat seems to like it.
Do you like it? Okay, good, good. Well, thanks, guys, for watching me dance. Yeah,
There you go.
appreciate that, Top K-pop. Thank you very much. Yeah, thanks for the well wishes there, Blue Jays.
Yeah.
Oh, for watching me dance. But yeah, back to EOS. The most important thing here. We have Conscious OS. They're coming in shortly here, but in the meantime, can you give us sort of a recap, Blue Jays? What do you know about this? The ruling, and then the non-ruling, and then basically the block producers decided to try and help out token holders anyway. Is that right?
Right. So, the 911 group got some information of token holders which keys were compromised. This is something that we can deal with in EOS. So that's the good news. The good news is that the code is in law, and people have recourse if this happens to them. How it was executed, I think, is up for debate. It's also an area of controversy. I believe people acted in good faith. Is there improvement to do? I totally agree there is. But that's all I will say. I'm being very diplomatic on this one.
Well, Blue Jays, maybe you should run for president someday. A particular stance. You said it well. You covered the facts, right? I mean, we have the EOS 911 group, and they basically have been trying to help token holders get their tokens back, right? They set up a system. They set up a verification system for folks to verify that they actually were the owners of the tokens back when the ERC20 token existed. And then they even had, I believe, a Zoom conference or a video conference call as well to verify the identity. And then they were going to step forward and put out this, I guess they submitted it to the ECAF for the ECAF to decide whether or not to actually roll back those transactions and give them back to the rightful owners of the tokens, which I think most people would agree. Yeah, sure. Why not? Right? Take it away from the scammers. However, the ECAF could not arrive at a decision because the Constitution has not been formally ratified, as far as I can tell. And they're putting out that statement later on that should clarify what they're saying later on, in about an hour or so. But then what also happened is the block producers sort of heard about this yesterday, how the ECAF may not make a ruling on this. And because there's a limited time window, because those tokens will be unstaked after a certain period, and then the scammers can then sell those tokens and take the money and be off with it, I guess it was decided there had to be an emergency measure put into place. And so that's why the block producer candidates got together on a video conference yesterday. They spent a long time discussing it with each other, and they came to a decision that they would go ahead and roll it back on their own because the ECAF had not acted. Go ahead.
And for any viewer who is not familiar with the ECAF, this was a group that was put together, the EOS Community Arbitration Forum. It currently has 3 interim members, and this was something that was headed way before the launch of the chain. It's something that is meant to deal with dispute resolution by trusted parties who are trained as arbitrators. So when Kevin says that they did not act, it means that no ruling was made in this case today.
Yeah, and basically that means that they're the ones who can make the decision whether it's a good idea or not to actually go ahead and reward those tokens back to the rightful owners. Even though most people would say, yeah, sure, but they're the ones who have to decide on that, and they're the ones who have the power to actually do that. And then once the block producers receive that order from the arbitrators, that's when the block producers are allowed to act. The block producers are not supposed to be able to make the decisions and act both, because that is too much power in certain hands, I guess is the idea, right? This is supposed to be a democracy where you have the judicial branch, which is the arbitration group, ECAF, and then you have the executive branch, the block producer candidates who are elected, and then you also have the legislative branch, which are the token holders, right? The community themselves. So unfortunately, like you said, some progress can be made, right? Going forward, we can learn a lot from this. We can improve a lot of things that, one thing is that block producer candidates, they should probably, they sort of need to make sure that they're broadcasting all their information to everybody, right? So what happened today is a lot of folks were confused about what exactly was going on. There wasn't enough information in the community. And the only information that folks had was coming directly from the block producer candidates themselves. They did not, unfortunately, record the call just because, but they probably forgot. They're trying to act in the best interest of the token holders, right? And at the end of the day, that's what they're trying to do. They're trying to do the best they can. But it's just in terms of all the measures and the whatnot for the community to help the community feel better about what happened. That stuff did not take place in terms of both the arbitration not being able to make a ruling, but then the block producers going ahead and doing it anyway. But then also the communication to the public. So we'll improve on those things. There's a lot to learn from, and looking forward to hearing what Thomas has to say too, because I'm sure he'll have some very good thoughts about it. He may have a good analogy or two that he'll throw out there as well. Probably stolen bike analogy. I think we'll probably hear about that one maybe. The stolen bike we've heard him talk about before, where you want to vet the stolen account. We've heard about people buying stolen accounts. Well, if you're going ahead and doing that, you need to vet the seller, right? You can't be buying a stolen account. You have no rights to that account. So good old Thomas will be on here later. So we're waiting for Conscious OS to come in.
Yeah.
As well.
While we're waiting for them, we'll just play the happy birthday video once again.
Well, beautiful. Bluejays. What else has been going on, man, in your EOS life? What else is new?
Oh, EOS life. So, my regular life. I just came back from Disney World. I took my family there, so we had a nice time. It was nice. My daughter, she's 6. She loves it there in the water park. So that was what I did on the weekend.
Sounds pretty good.
Yeah.
You didn't get too sunburned though. I don't see too much.
No, I don't really get sunburned. I just get darker, to be honest.
Just get more beautiful.
Yeah.
Yeah, I was telling my girlfriend about that. We went camping for the weekend, so I was offline, right? So I came back today and I saw this stuff. I wasn't sure what was going on for a while, trying to catch up with all the ECAF and the block producer decision and whatnot. But I was telling my girlfriend, hey, when you get tan like that, you look more Brazilian, right? Everybody wants to look More Brazilian. So congratulations, Blue Jays. You looking Brazilian.
I
Over
look
there.
more Brazilian. Speaking of which, they did not execute yesterday on in who did they play? Switzerland, I believe, right?
They lost to in Mexico.
Mexico. Okay.
Brazil lost to Mexico. Yeah, yep. And we'll get back to EOS in a second, guys. But you know how we keep asking everybody what the World Cup looks like. You know, we ask Argentina, what do they feel about the World Cup, and Germany, and they're like, we've been working on EOS so hard, we
Yeah.
we don't even necessarily know. But the games have started.
I don't. I'm gonna call you out on that one. I don't think they played Mexico. I think they played Switzerland.
Oh, was it Switzerland?
Yeah.
Okay.
But Mexico did win. Maybe we don't have the facts here. Oh, okay,
Yeah.
yeah, we do. Somebody just said in the chat.
Switzerland. My bad, guys. I know Mexico beat somebody important.
Yes.
You know what? It was Germany. They beat Germany.
That's
Sorry
right.
about that.
That's right.
Yeah. And that's why it was a big deal. I heard that they caused an earthquake in Mexico City. It registered on the Richter scale there, and they claimed it was because so many people were jumping up and down.
Wow.
And there was, I know, yeah. Well, anyway, back to EOS Blue Jays. What's your the past week of EOS? We've not heard much from Dan, right? We're still waiting on a referendum for this Constitution. There's a lot of waiting that's happening right now. It's a chicken and egg type scenario, and that's partly why the ECAF did not make a decision, because they said we don't have the power. This Constitution has never been formally ratified. That means that we are not formally able to make decisions like this, and therefore we defer.
I mean, is it ratified or not? I would argue that it is. It's out there. We have no. Thomas Cox put it rightly in the chat. We have no other guidance other than the code is law, the Constitution, and the terms of agreement for the EOS token holders. So the Constitution as it exists right now is as official as it gets. That's my opinion.
We've seen that a few times. Yeah. I mean, that's if the 15% have activated the chain, therefore they have sort of adopted the Constitution is the way of thinking. Yeah. And Thomas, you put out the three options you were referencing there in chat earlier. He was talking about that. And I think we're all kind of past the point where we just think code is law and the rest of it is just law of the jungle. We're not trying to do that anymore. We're trying to make a governed blockchain. We're trying to give people their tokens back, right? If they deserve them, if there's an arbitration ruling for that, then yeah, they deserve their stolen tokens back, hopefully. So it makes sense to me. And, it's the right thing being done. Hopefully in the long run, it'll all work itself out. What do you see going forward, Blue Jays? Like, what do you think should be done to sort of improve upon? How can we make this better?
I think more transparency, and definitely more transparency should be done in terms of if you need to override an existing process, who made the vote, and also for everyone to see the reasoning why the vote was made. I think it because it wasn't transparent, maybe we all in our minds think the worst. Whereas if we saw it, then we might go, okay, yeah, they made some good reasoning there. And at the end of the day, to me, the decision was an epic one. Because it showed that you can't get scammed on this chain, and that says more. At the end of the day, for outsiders to know that you can't screw around on EOS, that says a lot. How it was carried out needs to be worked on. So,
yeah, well said. And actually, we're going to do a little call an audible here to reference American football terms. We're going to bring in DUCATUR first. It looks like Conscious OS is actually scheduled for next week. So DUCATUR will come in. Now, DUCATUR is the group that actually won third place in that EOS hackathon that happened in Hong Kong recently. So they're going to come in just a moment here, Blue Jays. I think a lot of folks are agreeing with you in chat just in terms of, the process can be improved, but this is the blockchain that cannot be messed with. If you're a scammer, you need to go elsewhere, right?
Right.
Kind of thing. So well said.
And I actually was talking to somebody way long ago regarding some tokens that were stolen from him, regarding the ERC20 tokens which were stolen from him. So he knew where it moved to, given the transparency of the blockchain. He knew that his tokens were taken from his ERC20 account and put into this other one, and he did not authorize that. So what was his recourse? Wait for EOS to launch. When the tokens were swapped to EOS mainnet, then he would know exactly who owns that account and then arbitration. It could have been brought up to something like an arbitration forum. So there you go.
Sure. Yeah. And then actually, I think George, is that you?
Arbitration.
Yeah.
Could have been brought up to something.
Hey, George. If you can go ahead and mute your YouTube channel. It has some feedback there when you.
Yeah. I think I got it down.
Okay, cool. Good to meet you.
Hey, George.
Hey guys.
And congratulations this past weekend or a couple weekends ago when you guys got third place in the hackathon.
Oh yeah, thank you. That was crazy. the whole thing, the hackathon, and us winning too. I was just listening to the whole podcast here. Yeah, just waiting my time. So yeah, it was good. It was good. I just got back actually like 7 hours ago from Japan. So a lot of traveling now with the ICO stuff and the whole crypto thing. Yeah.
Well, thank you for coming on. We appreciate having you. I'm sure you're probably pretty worn out, but can we learn more about you and your background and also DUCATUR and learn more about the project?
Sure. Yeah, I think I'll try to focus on EOS as that's the main theme of the subject. But just a few words about me. I have been involved in a lot of ICOs previously. Had my own kind of company, like helping them, advising them and stuff. Around like 6-7 months ago, we started slowly developing DUCATUR, which is an infrastructure project. We're doing data solutions, kind of a yellow book for APIs, if that makes sense. So basically, just for the overall audience, I'd say that when you're writing smart contracts to reach out to external data, you need oracles and or different technology, stuff like that. Mostly there's no native solutions to that. EOS developing something, I'll get into that a little bit later. But basically, DUCATUR is a multi-chain oracles framework, and it's basically a tool set and an ecosystem of data providers. It's all focused on giving developers and companies access to external data. So for example, let's take like a very easy use case. You want all the information from NASDAQ coming into your smart contract and refreshing like every minute. And if you're doing that on Ethereum, that's a lot of commission you're going to be paying. So, so that's why we're a multi-chain, and we're trying to understand how we can develop the best system and stuff like that. And so we've been developing this for a long time. We're actually on like public sale right now for the ICO, but we're going to close it early. And for the hackathon, I actually went there to meet the EOS team. That's what I was most excited about. Just meeting Sergey Mitelin. Like I was briefly talking with him and emails and stuff like that. But we had a lot of success. What we did is we developed a new generation decentralized exchange that uses payment channels as an off-chain solution for making the decentralized exchange still decentralized, but without commissions for trading. So if you want, I can get deeper into that, but basically that's what we did. And the hackathon was very, very small in time. It was like 26 hours. So it was crazy. We didn't sleep for a few days, and but overall they took the top 10, and basically we had another set of presentations, and after that they chose 3 winners, us and two more teams.
Yeah. George, can you tell us a little bit about how the hackathon was judged? What
Sure.
were the criteria?
Yeah, so just some interesting stats, I think, for everybody. There were 79 teams. There was 330 people at the hackathon. It was in Hong Kong. They basically took huge hangar. It was previously like a airport, but is now like a cruise liner kind of thing. So it was very big, and the way they did it was, and how I felt, it was more of a EOS workshop than a hackathon, because everything is so new that half of the people were just setting up the nodes for the few 5-6 hours of the hackathon. So it was for us. We had a few. The best thing in organization for me that there was 20 or 30 mentors, and they helped a lot. So we constantly had people helping us understand like how to properly like use the libraries and the code and stuff like that. And the way they did it was basically they had two stages of like take like choosing the best projects. And the first stage was that you pitch your project to two people, two judges, and then so all the teams do that, and then those judges pick like their top five or something like that. They all went into a room or something, and then they discussed all the projects. They chose the top 10. We were lucky to get into the top 10, and then every project from the top 10 had a chance to speak on stage to the whole audience. And then there was like 10 judges or something like that, or 8, and they would ask questions basically. So that whole thing went for like an hour or something, and then they took like 20 or 30 minutes to choose the top 3, and announce the winners, like that.
Oh, very cool. So I'm just looking at your website right now. So does your data sit off the blockchain, and then you use?
No. Yeah, let me explain if that's interesting. So basically, like making a comparison from Ethereum. On Ethereum, what we would do, like what we can do, is to transfer data. Have the kind of the limit of the JSON file that you have doing the transaction, and basically the problem there is that if you want to use a recurring data, for example, some financial data that's changing all the time, and you want that to be like, let's say, every 3 minutes, you would need to set up a lot of you would need to set a lot of gas not to fall out of the 3-minute thing and stuff like that. With recurring data, there's a lot of commissions. They stack up, even like if you add up all the different data you want to send. And why we're so happy with or trying to develop a lot on EOS is that there's basically a lot easier with commissions. Basically, that whole problem is solved right away. But the problem is still there on how to technically organize this kind of ecosystem of data providers where developers could easily access the APIs they want and get that data. And we're looking, that's the problem, kind of, that's the infrastructure thing that we're solving. And the first thing is financial markets, which has like the most demand, but then this goes on to logistics and banks. Like there's a whole bunch of other markets that are kind of interesting in that sense. Yeah.
Can you just put it into like a simple explanation of what kind of problem is this solving?
So this is solving kind of giving developers and companies access to external data on one part. That's the Oracle technology, you would say, or something like that. But then deeper into that is that giving access to external data and that data is recurring, or it's a lot of data and you need to refresh it, like let's say every minute or something like that. And we hit two problems there right away: commissions, and that if you're based on like Ethereum, it's slow. That's the problem. So we're trying to solve those two problems at the same time, kind of making just one place for this whole storage of these APIs. So it would be easy for developers to go see what kind of data they need and access it. Yeah.
Okay, so just so for everyone, it's not Oracle database, but the term Oracle, meaning you look up needed data that you need for your application.
Yeah. That's it. Yeah.
What were some of the points that the judges liked about your guys' project at the hackathon? What did they point out specifically that was interesting to them?
So basically, if you guys want, I can do a little pitch on the decentralized exchange. So basically, it's the same problem with decentralized exchanges, is that you gotta pay all the time. You gotta pay commissions for all the trades that you made, for putting a trade, for canceling a trade, and stuff like that, which throws off a lot of people from using it. And another problem is that all the decentralized exchanges are based on some blockchain. So for example, even if we take like BitShares, not like Ether Delta, which is like kind of old, let's say it's old, let's take like BitShares, which is faster and and better in all senses, but it's still based on their own blockchain. That means that everything is processed in blocks, and this does not allow high frequency trading and does not allow setting market orders. There's possibility of attack there. There's a lot of problems there, and there's still commissions for trade. What we did is we made it in a sense where when the person deposits Ethereum, for example, we open up a payment channel for that person, and then all the trades he's doing are commissionless. They're all off chain, and that off chain solution allows us to do it like 1 million transactions per second, no commission, stuff like that. Like basically like any centralized exchange, like Binance or something. We were saying we're as fast as Binance. that was the selling point. And basically what happens, and we did a decentralized exchange that is the first cross-chain decentralized exchange, because everybody right now are one chain, and the only connection they have to other assets, other tokens, is through their own smart tokens, or tokens basically backed up by other assets. So you have no real connection between another asset as a cryptocurrency or something like that. And you still need to trust that entity that is issuing those tokens. And we did a cross-chain decentralized exchange, and basically people could trade Ethereum, EOS. We open up a payment channel for them. They can do 1 million trades. Let's say they did 1 million trades in 1 minute, and then they want to withdraw. We close the payment channel and we check the balances basically. The off-chain solution we did still needs you to sign every trade that you're doing. So it's kind of off-chain, but you still need to sign every transaction that you're sending. And this way, it's also decentralized, and like basically we combine all the best of the decentralized exchanges and centralized exchanges. And this was quite interesting. After the hackathon, Hobie went up to me. We had a chat. They're very interested. As you know, a lot of exchanges are very interested in DEX solutions right now. So we're going to talk with Binance soon, talking very closely with Hobie. And I think this is going to be a successful side project of ours now. But yeah, the whole idea there was that that using EOS, you could do, like, you can even withdraw without commissions. And we tried to, the whole sales pitch, I guess, was that this is a way to show people how EOS is better, how EOS is like better than Ethereum, for example. And they can no commissions and stuff, and just an easy way to attract the audience of Ethereum and tell them, oh, look at this. It's way better. Why not withdraw your whole thing in EOS and start using EOS instead? So yeah, kind of in that sense. So they really liked the thing. They were asking about like, are we going to do KYC and stuff? But as a decentralized exchange, I guess you gotta keep that anonymity. And yeah, I'm quite happy. We had a lot of talking with the EOS team. I think that's going to go forward a lot. And I want to tell you, like, this would be interesting in terms of EOS. EOS is going to have an API solution, a native API solution for external data. It's kind of in the roadmap, and Everypedia is developing that for them, and kind of because I think because right now they have a big problem in terms of data storage. That's why they are solving. That's why they're developing the solution. And we got to be a little bit kind of friends with them during the hackathon, and I hope we're going to be co-developing some stuff with them. Very interesting team, very nice guys. Yeah. So yeah.
That was great. I think a lot of folks resonated with that. So they call it a centralized/decentralized hybrid exchange kind of solution, is what you're saying.
Yeah. We called it like the first cross-chain DEX with the speed of Binance, but yeah, that sounds better.
Very nice. What is your why? Why did you get into this? Why or how or what is your background?
I actually, after a lot of time doing just startups and stuff like that, I went into doing VC stuff, and kind of just popped on an ICO, which was LA Token. If you heard about that, that was like summer 2017. And that got me really thrilled about the cryptocurrency market as a business guy. But then getting deeper into it, I understood that we're in such early development that it's crazy, and I thought there's so much potential. And even if right now all people are thinking about, like the majority of just normal people is thinking about the payment solution as cryptocurrency, and that's super early. We're like super early stage, and like I thought that this is the market to be in. This is the place to develop and create the future. And you can do it now, and that's what I've been doing ever since. Yeah, kind of. That was the why, I think.
Where is your team located, and can you tell us a little bit more about your team and your sort of mission and goals and all that?
Sure. So the developer team is all in Moscow. It's I'm here now, just working closely with them. But the business team, I'd say, is all around the world, mainly in London. London, we have people in Korea, like team members. Very active market. I've been living there for like 3 weeks, just to get to know people and stuff like that. And then we have a few people in Amsterdam, US. So yeah, I'm trying to reach out to the most active markets and have our hand working with the businesses there and stuff like that. Yeah. And in terms of like roadmap, we're going a lot. We're going very fast. I'm growing the team, and after the EOS hackathon, we really got attention of like strategic investors and stuff like that, EOS VCs, and we're talking with them too, and like the Hobie connection. So everything was very uphill from the hackathon. So I'm very happy, that we kind of accomplished that. Yeah.
What advice would you give to other hackathon hopefuls, people who would like to apply and go and participate in one?
The only thing that I think they should make the hackathon a little bit longer, like 2 days. But for the participants, I'd say is that prepare. Try to understand what you're doing before you're going into it, because we had some time. Like I told, like our developers prepared. We understood like how to set up a node. We knew all that beforehand, and that significantly helped us a lot, because we didn't spend any time on the setting it up. We started right away developing the idea we had, and so try to understand EOS before you go to the hackathon. Try to do some tests, try to access the testnet, set up the node and stuff like that. And I think that's the key. And while you're on the hackathon, don't be afraid to ask for help, because even right now, the thing at the EOS hackathon, we asked mentors to come to help us, and they asked other mentors to help out. So it's super early stage. So and that's totally fine. That's why they're doing the hackathon, you know. But don't be afraid to ask for help. And even for teams developing on EOS right now, don't be afraid to write to EOS directly to their developers. I think Sergey Mitilin is actually the developers operations. I think head of developers operations. Yeah. So
Developer relations, maybe.
I think he's the head of like relations with developers or something like
Right.
that.
Right.
That's the
Serge.
Serge. I'm sorry. The Russian the Russian equivalent. Serge. Yeah. And they're very responsive. So I think that's the key to success. Just being there a little bit early, you know, studying, and don't go to sleep. work the whole thing. And actually, funny thing is that we had two funny things. One thing is that I got late and they didn't want to get me in. And actually, Brian from EOS VC, he told them to, okay, you know, get the guy in. And the second thing is that one of our developers, he got super tired. He didn't sleep for like 3 days, and he had a panic attack. So we sent him to the hospital.
Oh man.
And we had three people, you know, developing to the end. So, you know, a lot of that's why I'm saying it was crazy, but I'm still super happy that against the odds we did it.
Who says coding isn't a physical job, right?
Yeah. Yeah, totally. It's crazy.
So where do you see oracles in like 2 years from now on the blockchain? What kind of use cases do you foresee, like the vision, like if you were to map yourself out 2 years from now or 5 years from now?
I see that even right now, if you're like, if we're talking about like financial markets, giving a good access to that kind of data and the possibility to develop dApps on it would spawn like a whole new market of dApps and different applications. You can centralize exchange where you're not trading cryptocurrency, where you're trading literal stock, you know, or something like that. If you have an entity backing it up or something, but still like the idea itself. I think what's going to happen with oracles is that most certainly most of the blockchains that are leaders in the space should have native ways to extract external data into their blockchain. They should also have ways of extracting like external data and recurring data, and also storing data on the blockchain. And I think in 2 years' time, many of them are going to come up with these solutions. But what we want to be, by then, we want to be the place for all the data providers to be in, and the developer having the possibility to see the reputation of these data providers. Because if we're talking crypto stuff, the thing that really matters is having the person you're outsourcing that data from to be very reputable. Because an error in his data might lead to a huge like mistake or error in your application and a possible loss of money. So right now we're kind of helping the blockchain itself by developing or co-developing solutions for data. But in the future, we just want to be like the place for data providers to be in, and sending that data, and you know, having kind of where we're thinking about like different kinds of reputation stuff, dispute resolution, and solutions into that. So I think we're slowly going to shift, because after the EOS hackathon, we'll also talked with Cardano, and they're like, they understand the problem, and I think we're going to help them up with that too. So yeah, it's a growing space, and I think we are multi-chain, so we're kind of agile into that, you know, being at the right place, because I always thought that Ethereum needs a rival like EOS to overcome, because you know, I think Ethereum right now is holding a lot of weight, of the previous years of previous development, and it takes a lot of balls to change that stuff. So the leverage that EOS has is that it's all new, it's so early. That's like the problem and the leverage at the same time. So if everything goes well, I think it could bootstrap itself into being a rocket and launching high and far. So yeah, kind of something like.
George, you said the magic word there, the C word. I think Dan should pop in any moment here and talk about why EOS is better than Cardano. So thank you for that. As we know, he likes to do in Telegram. But and where can folks keep up with DUCATUR? Sorry, I'm going to pronounce it wrong.
DUCATUR.
DUCATUR, yes. Where can folks keep up with DUCATUR? Where's the best place for them to follow along?
So like DUCATUR.com. And I'm trying to make a good Twitter feed now. After a lot is going on, but yeah, DUCATUR.com I think is the best place. Just subscribe, and I'm sending out emails like every 3-5 days, so not a lot of emails, and only with some very interesting information. So yeah, stuff like that. Yeah.
Cool. It's been great talking to you. It sounds like an amazing project you're working on, and obviously it has big support now from a lot of folks who have learned about it. So congratulations again.
Yeah, thanks a lot, guys. Thanks
George, for coming on.
Yeah, thanks for getting me on the podcast. Yeah, would love to get back to you in a few months with an update on how things are rolling.
And of course, data is the new oil, so it's going to be running our economies, and definitely we look for good things from your project.
Awesome. Yeah. If you want to talk about like data or decentralized exchanges, Kevin, you know how to call me up.
Yep, definitely. We'll go. I mean, that'll be a big topic coming up here in the next few months, certainly. So, yeah, we'll have to talk to you again.
Awesome, guys.
Cool.
Yeah.
Thanks,
Now I'll leave you now. Have a good one. Yeah. I'll continue watching the podcast.
Thanks, George.
Bye-bye.
Wow. Yeah, you said it well, Bluejays. It's the new oil, right?
Yep.
Data. It's been that way for a little while now, but now the oil gets to be spread out to everybody, I guess, right? We all get to sort of benefit from the striking of that oil, right? Supposedly.
Yeah.
Can you give us more of your thoughts on that?
Well, they say that the amount of data created in the last 2 years is more than we created in the first 98% of our humans being existed. So it's just growing, and we have that power with the combination of the blockchain. It looks like a bright future using these technologies, that's for sure.
Have you thought much about Oracle services in the past?
Yeah, so data is not going to be available on chain for everything that's going to be needed to process logic and to make logic. For smart contracts to happen, smart contracts need data to make decisions. That's what oracles are for. So if a smart contract needs to do a lookup to get some data, do some calculations, that's what oracles are going to be done for. And yes, looking up data that's already also changing, especially in the financial industry, that is just something that is definitely needed. So smart contracts need oracles.
Well said. It sounds like it's another one of those building blocks, right? I mean, scatter is actually a good example of another building block. This is just a baseline foundation we've talked about before, and there's a lot of extra sort of needed infrastructure, I guess you could say, that needs to be built up as well on top of EOS in order for it to actually be usable for these end game dApps. Of course, when these dApps start to come out, maybe they'll have some of the infrastructure built in, and they'll have open source tools available for other dApps to jump in on. We keep talking about, for example, Steam at 2.0 coming from Block 1 that Dan has talked about. And he's mentioned even that there may be a good identity solution on blockchain built into Steam at 2.0. And maybe you'll be able to use that identity solution for other apps as well, I would presume. We should say that we have EOS Emerge coming on shortly, too, from Poland as well.
You're a block producer candidate?
Block producer candidate from Poland. Yep, we haven't heard much from them. They've been on the schedule now for a few weeks, and we're excited to meet them. And Bluejays, I mean, when it comes to identity on the blockchain, this is switching gears a little bit. You know, what do you see that enabling for folks? What is your kind of vision for that?
Obviously, identity theft would be harder. So, enabling transactions on the blockchain, tying that to your accounts, and being able to see the transparency on the back end. That's going to help identity theft, right? If you know where your money's going, who you are. I don't foresee anything. I don't know how it's going to be used. I don't know how the use case is going to be used well, and I look forward for the leaders in this industry to show that, really. So I'm looking forward to use the technology and see what can be done.
Yeah, I definitely agree. I think there was Tokenika was talking about identity being sort of the holy grail building block that will sort of enable so many other options. And actually, we just have confirmation now that Moti, with the ECAF arbitration forum, he'll be coming on along with Thomas Cox tonight.
Great.
So we'll have a good discussion, I suppose, about what's happening. I'll get a full update as it happens as well. But EOS Emerge are having a couple of connection issues, but here they come, actually, from Poland, talking to us about block producer candidacy. And we'll talk about the leaderboard here, too, Bluejays, as they sign in. Let's see what's happening with the leaderboard for the block producers. What have you noticed? I've seen that EOS Canon rose to the top about 2 days ago, day and a half ago or so.
Right.
I'll share my screen for you if you want.
Sure.
Check it out. It's always fun to look at the leaderboards, right? I mean, never gets old.
It's also not going to change. It's always going to be like this. There's always going to be fluctuations, I believe.
Well, we've been talking about the leaderboard for so darn long here, and actually, here's Mark just made it on. So we'll go back to this later, but we were just talking about EOS Canon made it to the top recently. Liquid EOS with Bancor has been doing very well as well. Bitfinex has just recently gone to number 3, so that's okay as well. So, hey, Mark, how you doing?
Hello.
Hi,
Hello.
Mark.
Hello, guys. How are you?
Doing well.
And how do you pronounce your name? Is it Marek or Merrick?
Nice.
You're a little hard to hear. I didn't hear that quite.
Yeah, I have I'm in a remote location. I'm in North Africa, so I might have some connection issues.
Okay.
Wait, maybe I'll stop the video.
Yeah, guys, can you hear me, please? Yeah, it's Miłosz here.
Hi, Miłosz.
Hey, Miłosz. Nice to meet you.
Yeah. Marek is currently in Tunisia, and its internet connection is not great here. So I am speaking from Poland, and also I have some issue with my camera right now. So I hope to get sorted out quick. But for now, I'll be the voice here, and hopefully Marek will join us soon.
Sounds good.
Can you hear me at all?
We can, Marek, but it comes across very choppy. I don't know. You've already done.
Very choppy. We tried that. It was before. It worked. I don't know what happened now.
Maybe the best solution is to restart it and give it another chance, I guess.
Well, Miłosz, maybe you can continue. Tell us a little bit about EOS Emerge and what you guys are about, why you're doing what you're doing, and a little bit more about what you look to achieve as a block producer in EOS.
Yeah. So EOS Emerge is a project based in Poland, in Katowice and the southern of Poland. And basically, we are the group of people present on the financial markets for a long time now. And it is more about the traditional financial markets. And blockchain is something new and something that we are eager to join. And for now, for us right now is to be a part of this community, the EOS community, and explore the possibilities of EOS for more traditional financial instruments. Yeah. So we are on both sides of it. We know the financial traditional markets and like investment sector and alternative investment sectors, insurance, etc. And but the financial markets right now, it's not too sexy. Yeah, we like to call it. It's not sexy stuff. Yeah, and blockchain is something great. And personally speaking, I have a law degree, and in the same moment I ended the studies. Yeah, in law, and decided it's not something I want to do in my life. Yeah, and I was searching for something. I was looking for something to create, yeah. And with the traditional markets, there are not a lot of opportunities to create things. there are always some books, some doctrine stuff you have to follow. Yeah, and I started looking for something fresh, and then blockchain pops out. Yeah, and if you want to create something on blockchain, okay, no problem. Yeah, but it's no book. Yeah, it's not guidance here. You have to listen to people who are wiser than you. Yeah, and step by step, we go into this blockchain story. And first, it was all about Bitcoin, mostly like the most of people. Yeah, it's blockchain, Bitcoin, and then you see it's a lot of other projects. Yeah, and the second big thing for us is BitShares. So, like I said, we have the experience on the financial typical markets, and we saw BitShares, and wow, BitShares could be revolution for financial markets. There are so many entities involved in financial typical stuff that BitShares could easily remove them from markets. There are many big companies, $1 million companies, existing because of the typical procedures on financial markets, and BitShares was the thing that could simply remove them from it. Yeah, and the EOS is natural next step for us, and that's why we want to candidate as block producers. And as you may see, we are not currently listed and block producers, not even as standby producers, but these things may change very quickly. Yeah, so we are 1 week into this whole EOS launch, and some people think that it's over now. Yeah, but it's never over in EOS, and this is the real strength of EOS. That as long as the voting is still alive, as long the EOS will progressing and evolving. Once we forgot the voting is still a thing, then we may fall into trap of monopoly, yeah, of current block producers. I'm not calling anyone the bad fate or something, yeah, but we need to keep token holders informed, yeah. But because in our ecosystem, yeah, it's all block producers on Telegram, etc. There is no need to explain what the block production is. Yeah? It's something very normal, something well explained, but token holders are the ones who need to be explained. And I thought that we as a whole block producer community did a good job informing token holders about block production, what is this, what it's all about. And then after launch, I saw a lot of tweets on the Reddit bots. Hey, okay, I have some EOS, I'm a token holder, but I'm not tech guy. What should I do? Yeah, who is good, who is bad, what is important in block production? And there's a continuous work we have to do. It's education, raising awareness, and it's our job for now. It's not ideal because there's too many information to digest, yeah, for typical token holder. But it's the real strength of EOS is the community, and this is one important thing we have to do is to keep this community as much as we can informed, because there is a true value, and without the community, the EOS can exist, yeah. And there's something special we saw in EOS, and the moment we joined this whole election process, we saw that there's something well professionally handled, yeah, from you guys, and for our perspective, is the tremendous work you've done, and the Bluejays, Kevin Wilcox, and Talk Pop, Jenny, Katie Roman. It's not to mention any other guys in Telegram groups. Is the true strength of this community, and it's the most important thing to keep this fire, this flame alive, and we're gonna be fine.
I like your take on that, Milos. That's well said. I mean, it's like you said, we have to keep this ecosystem strong by making sure the block producers are always answering to the community, and of course, educated token holders strong. You need to have some educated token holders to be able to make good votes for a strong block producer candidate. So certainly that speaks to us as well. You're exciting Bluejays and I believe, right now in terms of everybody updated. Can you guys go ahead, Bluejays?
Yeah, so Milos also talked about it was a natural choice for him to come to EOS. Did you consider any other blockchains?
For now, no, because there is something about Dan Larimer and his projects. There, if you heard about this project, you go into it totally. There's no other way. Yeah, it's something like these visionaries, and if you want to do it 100%, you're go fully into it. Yeah. So for us, EOS was very simple choice. But this market, this whole crypto space is very fluid, and there will be a lot of exciting projects. But as I like to repeat, that we were given the tool from Dan from Block One, and if projects from traditional markets choose other blockchain, it's we are to blame. Yeah, so it's our fault. We, the block producers, active block producers, standby block producers, we are obliged to keep reliable, stable chain. And if bank sector and any entities will decide, okay, we're gonna do something on blockchain. Yeah, so it's our job to inform them, this is EOS and this great tool for you, and this is the chain, we're stable and you can do everything you imagine on it. So it's very important for us to keep this chain reliable and stable. And for our perspective, it was the best, the most important thing to be well prepared to the technical side of this job. Yeah. We are not advertising. We are not very politically evolving in these areas, and we are doing some work in tech. Yeah, so we are very focused on test nets, on performing well, and keep in touch with other block producers, because for now, testnet is the best way to prepare for block producers. So I'm very happy that Jungle Testnet from Crypto Alliance, shout out to them for the fantastic work they did. It's gonna be a real thing even after launch, and will be some form of playground, experimenting field for another block producers, because it's very important. It's very important because only in these war situations, it's like, oh my God, the chain is dead. Yeah, so we have 15, 16 block producers down, and what you gonna do? Yeah, so how long does it take to resurrect the chain? We're gonna do in 5 minutes, 10 minutes, on one hour. It's all about this code of conduct of procedures, and it's important to follow the specific rules. So it might be concerning for me that after launch there were several block producers who are joined the mainnet. Yeah, so we never heard of them. Where they might be well prepared for the job, I don't know, but we have to be very vigilant. Yeah, so we have to focus that at least 15 block producers will be well prepared to the job. So testnet was the main focus for us.
That's very good. Milos, can you just let the community know where they can keep up with you, and anything that you'd want us to know coming up about what your timeline is, or any future plans you may have at the moment?
Yeah, so the best way to reach out to us is obviously Telegram, and it's our second home right now. And you can also reach out on Steemit when you're trying to public some informal posts to the community about the specific of block production. also on Reddit. But basically, we are still into this tech space right now. So we are working on voting and wallet, voting portal and wallet for now only for Mac users, but hopefully also on Linux and Windows. And it's be similar to what have been done so far. Yeah, so from EOS Rio, like Simple EOS. But I can't tell much about it right now, but we are also cooperating on making some affordable hardware wallet. But it's on very early stages, and I can't tell the name right now, but we are working to include EOS on this wallet too. So it's going to be exciting couple of months. And like I said, it's not over for us. And as long as we have the faith and goodwill to help the community, we'll do so. So for us, the reward for our job was never a thing. So because we are well self-funded and we have the legal entity for about, I guess, 10 years now, and it was never about the money and rewards and EOSs, because we are doing it because we want to develop ourselves and develop into space of cryptocurrency in Poland, because in Poland we have the very eager market, eager people to join this blockchain story. And if you can see that the Polish banking sector, it's to compare it to even Asia sector, banking Asia sector. We have the most sophisticated mobile apps for banking in Europe, I guess. And it's we attend a couple of banking conferences and about their roadmaps, yeah. And they say the blockchain is the future for us, and we are only waiting for platform to make our plans possible. So we strongly believe that EOS will be this platform for them.
Well, we just wanted to say thanks for coming on and welcome to the community. It's like a pleasure to have people like you in our community, and of course you probably already know about Tokenika too in Poland, right?
Yeah, of course. We had the 3 block producers in Poland, so I guess Tokenika is most vital one, and we're very happy that they are secured the spot as a standby BP for now. But it's great for whole Polish EOS blockchain community, and we are not competing with them, and we can be only better with their support, in this whole crypto space here. So it's great. Also, EOS Green is competing for BP spot. So it's interesting, and I'm very pleased from what I see in Poland in terms of EOS and blockchain.
That's great. I love that attitude. Really, that's just the way to put it. Well said. Well, thank you guys. Yeah, really great to meet you, and I look forward to hearing more from you guys.
Yeah. So sorry for technical problems. My camera also all of a sudden decided to go down on YouTube. Yeah, so I guess it happens.
Yeah,
that's all right. No worries.
No worries.
Okay.
Yeah. We're just glad to hear from you guys. Yeah.
Thank you. Okay, bye-bye.
Bye, Miloš.
Bye. Yeah. Great to meet those guys, huh? It's you been to Poland before?
No, I have not. I isn't it cold up there? I don't know.
Well, you love the cold. Blue Jays, your name's from Toronto, obviously, Toronto Blue Jays.
Right.
Yeah. We have Thomas Cox coming on, and Moti as well. There's Moti. Well, right on time. Look at these guys.
Oh, wow.
All right.
Hey, guys. Welcome.
Greetings.
Thank you guys for coming on. We were talking a little bit about what's been happening earlier on, but of course, we'd love to hear from your guys' side, if we could, please.
Super. Where would you like to start?
Well, just a brief recap for those who weren't on earlier. It looks like originally there was an EOS 911 group that was formed to help token holders who had lost their funds or had them phished or stolen by scammers. And then recently, the ECAF arbitration group decided they were not able to rule because I guess the Constitution has not been formally ratified, if I'm saying that correctly. And then therefore
yes and no.
Yes and no. It had not been decided
yes,
whether
yes, they chose not to rule. No, there's not an issue with the Constitution being ratified.
Okay. And then it sounds like the block producers then got together and decided they would go ahead and freeze the accounts, even though they did not have a formal ruling from an arbitrator. And so here we are today, and we have been awaiting a statement from the arbitration group to hopefully learn more from their side of the story and, learn more. So hopefully I did a decent job of explaining that for everybody who's watching.
Super. Well, how about I tell you what little I know from the outside, since I'm not an arbitrator, and then the head of the arbitration group, Moti, can correct me where I'm wrong, if you don't mind my doing it that order. Sure. I have been trying to track the block producers closely in this whole very important unfolding of one of the first tests, really, of our governance system. And this is where wording matters a great deal. Arbitration, as you know, is binding in over 150 countries around the world because over 150 countries have each passed their own arbitration act, which says arbitration is binding. But arbitration is only binding when the preconditions are met, one of which is that all the parties agree to arbitration. And that's a tremendously important point. Now, I have agreed to the EOS Constitution. The block producers, I don't think anyone can make a case they have not agreed to the EOS Constitution. But a person whose identity we don't know, has that person agreed to the EOS Constitution? Interesting question. And as things currently stand, one might have good reason to wonder that. Particularly in a particular case, and I don't comment on particular cases. I mean, just sort of hypothetically imagine you've got a case and you want to bring it in front of arbitration on the EOS blockchain, and you're a member, and the counterparty maybe isn't. Should an arbitrator assert jurisdiction in that case? That's a very good question. And in this particular case, as I understand it, and I know that the order hasn't come out, and the wording I don't think has been released yet. We'll have to read that closely when it does come out. But each arbitrator has to decide, based on the merits of a case, does his arbitration forum have jurisdiction or not? Very first question you ask and answer. Having asked and answered it, then you can do whatever the next thing is. My understanding of what unfolded is the block producers wanted an order from arbitration to do the freeze, which would have required more clarity and more knowledge and more certainty about jurisdiction than was literally currently available. When that was not forthcoming, which it was not, the block producers then said, okay, well, we don't got a ruling in advance of action, but we know we can get a ruling in response to action. So what if we do that? And so they decided that as block producers, they had enough information to temporarily freeze activity on accounts that they felt they had good reason to believe had been compromised, which is, that's kind of a big deal. Our Constitution, our bylaws, our all of our conversation about governance has made it very clear that block producers, of course, could and maybe should act in advance of arbitrators' orders if they feel they need to because of an emergency. Well, in this case, accounts were reported as compromised. The unstake command had been issued, which would make those tokens liquid and therefore stealable within 72 hours of the unstake command. Okay, now if you're looking at that and you're looking at the ticking clock on that, and you're a block producer, you might think this feels kind of urgent, which apparently they did. And they unanimously decided to freeze those specific accounts, as I understand it, and then ask for a ruling. Now, if a bunch of block producers freeze something and ask for a ruling, that's totally in bounds. Everybody in that case is clearly within the jurisdiction of arbitration. And so my understanding is, and Moti can tell us the details, that such a request was put in. I believe it's been assigned, and that a ruling may in fact even be in the works regarding it. So everything is functioning exactly as designed, including some weird edge cases I did not expect to see in the first, week of operation of the chain. And I'm tremendously impressed with everybody kind of sticking to their role. Like the block producers didn't try to make policy, right? The arbitrators didn't decide to, jump in and take urgent action, on sketchy details. People were very careful to follow both the letter and the spirit of the rules as I understand them. I'm incredibly impressed by all the parties involved. So that's my summary. Now Moti can correct everything I got wrong.
No, I think, Thomas, that was a great summary. I mean, you've captured all the salient points, which I think are, essentially, as you've mentioned, jurisdiction. Every time an arbitrator of any forum, and I think that's very important to note, it's not just
it's not just arbitration is decades old. This is settled. This has been internationally true since the 50s. This is rock solid stuff.
Correct. Yes. And if any forum received a request, the first thing that the arbitrator does is, do I have jurisdiction to look at this issue? And as Thomas mentioned, the emergency arbitrator that was assigned to the original case was not able to satisfy themselves that they had jurisdiction. And we've got to think, what does that mean if they do not have jurisdiction and they make a ruling? Well, it means that any rulings they deliver will not be final. They will not be binding. That means they could be overturned by appeal, or overturned based on the fact that the arbitrator was negligent in making a ruling without jurisdiction. And that defeats the purpose. Then it just opens up arbitration to essentially an attack.
Yeah, and this probably brings up two questions for most people. One is, how do I know that my case will be covered by arbitration? And are we going to see this kind of thing happen in the future? So let me address the first one first. My best understanding, again, Moti will correct me, is if you're Fred and Barney and you want to do something on the EOS blockchain and you both want arbitration to have jurisdiction, you both just make sure that you've each agreed to the Constitution explicitly and you each have a copy of the other person agreeing to it. Maybe you just put that in your smart contract, maybe it's in your Ricardian contract, but somewhere you just both explicitly agree to the Constitution. Boom, you're covered. Yay, and you agreed in advance of any dispute. So as long as you and your counterparties are agreeing to the Constitution explicitly, you are covered.
So does that mean in this case, the emergency arbitrator assigned to the case did not believe that the token holder agreed to the Constitution?
Well, remember, there's three parties here, right? There's the person claiming that their account was compromised, and that hasn't been found to be true yet. They have evidence maybe, but I don't know it. They've got the block producers who are being asked to freeze things. And then you got the current holder of the private key who we haven't found. We don't know that person. We haven't got an identity. It's like this could be from like pre-launch of the blockchain, pre-constitution, right? They might have lost their Ethereum key or they might have lost their EOS key, or it might be a thief trying to use the 911 process to steal someone's account. We don't know. And so the three parties are, a claimant who has said, yes, I agree to the Constitution, block producers who obviously have agreed, and a third party respondent who we can't even identify here in the earliest days of the blockchain. In this particular case, our arbitrator felt that there was insufficient evidence to believe that jurisdiction was clear. And that's not the same thing as proof that it's not, right? Lack of evidence isn't evidence of lack, but it's just like, there's just not enough here to act. Now, compare that to a month from now, after everyone gets their front end code straightened out and everyone learns to show the Constitution to the user the first time they log in. And there's some talk about EOS Canada has suggested a new system transaction that lets you mark on your user account, I think it is, that you've agreed to a Constitution. But there'll be ways to check this. So we're not going to see this expanding to take over the chain. It's the opposite. This is going to die off pretty quickly as more and more people have more and more reasons and opportunities to agree, and we can more and more confidently assert that if you've been using the blockchain for months, of course you've agreed. So I personally anticipate this being an increasingly rare corner case. And we'll see, right? Who knows?
Okay, that's fair enough. Moti, do you have any more information that you'd like to give regarding the case? Not the case, but it was an official case.
Well, let's say there are official cases which we can't explicitly comment on because they're still being looked at by the arbitrators. So original case as well as a case that has been filed retrospectively, right? And I think to Thomas's point, this is going to happen. I mean, there are going to be situations where BPs will have to act on emergencies where, for whatever reason, either they can't get an arbitrator, the timescale is too short, that they need to make a decision quickly. And the process is laid out within the forum's rules of dispute resolution, that BPs can have the leeway to act where they think there is an emergency that needs a quick decision. But when they do so, they need to file a case against themselves, stating the reasons why they acted, why they believe they needed to act, and the arbitration forum will look at that and retrospectively agree to the BP's action, or it could be that the arbitrators decide that the BPs were not warranted to do that, in which case the BPs get a slap on the wrist and whatever actions they did are unwound, if it's possible to unwind. Yeah. And this is what has happened.
Yeah, and that's one of the reasons why it's so important. If you're a block producer or a block producer candidate, and you think, "Wow, I might face one of these emergencies, and I might have to take action without advance authorization. What ought I do?" And the answer to me, personally, was I would be very careful to only do things that are easy to undo. Like I wouldn't start reassigning property to people or deleting accounts, but you might freeze an account. And do your best to make sure that it gets resolved rapidly, because even a freeze could hurt somebody.
Is there any plan to define the impact of future sort of cases in terms of the severity or the dollar amount, the EOS amount, or other time factors that can rank these issues in terms of a severity level? So that would give more credence to whether or not we need to take emergency decision making.
You're asking very smart questions of the wrong people. So that's exactly the kind of thing I would expect block producers to want to come up with, and certainly an arbitration forum could then respond. Also, you might have token holders might be given a list of thresholds, and would you please, token holders, authorize the block producers to act in certain ways? Because remember, the token holders set policy, block producers carry out policy, arbitrators then interpret the rules in specific cases. So I totally get how smart it would be to have like some guidance and some rules and some thresholds, and I look forward to the appropriate people coming up with those. I think the block producers might want to suggest some and ask for a blessing by token holders.
What else do we need to go ahead?
Which then makes you wonder, how would they bless it? Which brings us to the referendum. And so there are a number of things pending ratification by token holders. We mentioned the Constitution being one. We are all currently living under an interim Constitution, which has validity until such time as it is, ratified or replaced by the first available referendum of token holders. So the legitimacy is real and it's provisional, and it can't go on indefinitely. So as soon as a referendum becomes possible, technically, one of the very first things would be, to ratify the Constitution or replace it with, an arguably better one. And then I imagine the arbitration forum would do something they've talked about doing, which I believe is part of their process, which is to take their slate of interim arbitrators and say, kind of like in the United States, the Congress receives the president's nominations for a high office, and then they, advise and consent on the office holder. It's to ratify the choices. And so that's why the arbitrators are interim arbitrators. it's because, as I understand it, they've been named and they're being trained, and they're being given their appropriate powers on an interim basis, pending ratification of the Constitution by token holders and confirmation of the named arbitrator candidates. So after confirmation, if you didn't get confirmed, your interim status goes away. You are no longer an arbitrator. That's pretty important. Same thing with the Constitution. If the current Constitution were replaced, then starting at that moment, the new Constitution would take effect, and old decisions would be old decisions, but new decisions would then have to conform with the new rule set.
So I guess there's two camps that people that look at this. One is the code of law people looking at this and saying, "Wow, we don't understand this at all." And then there's the other side of the story saying, "We should have had more governance, more rules." And the act was too...
I got $300 million worth of reasons why people wish they'd had this on Ethereum, a year and a half, 2 years ago, for the DAO hack and the parity wallet, which one of the multiple parity wallet bugs that have come up and so on. And so I'll tell you that my take on the code is law challenge to this, because you can imagine somebody who maybe they own EOS tokens or they have an EOS account, but they don't like the Constitution. I never agreed to it. Whatever. I don't feel like that. I don't want to be part of that. I'm old school. Everything should be like Bitcoin, only slower. Whatever. And it's like, okay, fine. Here's the deal. You get to live. You just get to be in the rule of, code is law. And guess what happens? You break one of our rules and you say, oh, the Constitution doesn't apply to me. The code is the law for me. And I'll say, great. Guess what's going to happen? I'm going to file a dispute. You won't respond to it. I'm going to win. My block producer buddies and I are going to come take back the stuff you stole. And guess what? The code lets us do that. The code is the law. So there.
Right.
And so either way, civilization beats law of the jungle.
Very good. And of course...
Bam!
Should we play a disco for you? No.
No, please. Hard rock or nothing, honestly. Give me some Zeppelin.
Okay. We'll work on that.
Work on that. Thank you.
And Moti, can we hear more about the going forward, what we're going to be expecting in the next couple of weeks? Or I know we've been waiting on a release as well for this whole situation. Can you give us more insight, please?
You may have to repeat the question.
Can you hear me okay? I was asking Moti if you could give us more insight into what the next couple of weeks may look like for the arbitration, how this will, going forward, what we can expect from
He's either oddly immobile or frozen.
I think he's frozen.
Okay.
Block producers may have frozen Moti.
No. So I can respond to the question about what the future holds to some extent, because I'm aware of a couple things, not the details of arbitration, of course. Let's see. I think we can probably confidently expect some sort of response to the cases that have been filed. Certainly the people who filed the cases will get some kind of response here, when the arbitrator is ready. And if it's a public order, then we'll all get a copy of it. And if it's not, I'm hoping that that ECAF will publish something to let us know that cases are being resolved, because this is very interesting to a lot of people, right? Even if it's a private order, because you and I might have some dispute where we don't want all the details public, but in a case where the case itself is really interesting, yeah, there definitely should be some kind of a announcement, I would imagine, would be appropriate. And people will start to get used to and start to understand better, like how this all works. What does arbitration do and not do? It's not a magic bullet. It doesn't, undo every crime. Not every stolen thing can be magically recreated out of the ether, so to speak. For you, but there's a lot it can do. So that's on the arbitration side. We're going to also see, I'm sure, more people recruited, probably, or at least screened for recruiting. More training will happen. More cases will show up. More weird, funny edge cases. Then there's the Constitution itself. We need to see a lot more of the wallets do what Graymass has been doing. I understand Graymass presents you with the Constitution when you connect. That needs to be the standard moving forward.
Thomas, one
Go
thing,
ahead.
what can people do before they bring something to arbitration? Should there be like a checklist? Like, I need this, I need this, I need this.
Right, and I think they actually provide you with one when you file a case. But you could actually go to any not blockchain arbitration. It's the same arbitration as blockchain arbitration. It's just arbitration, and there are a gazillion resources for that. So if you wanted to go to the International Center for Dispute Resolution, which is one of several sources of inspiration for our current rules of dispute resolution on our chain, you can go to the I can't remember the acronym. It's one of these 7-letter acronyms that the United Nations loves to give. Here's Modi's back with information about the how to go about invoking arbitration appropriately. You asked about the future. I want to also mention that we've got 2 other things brewing that are particularly interesting, I think, to me. Well, 3. One is getting the Constitution presented to people as the default behavior for front-end developers. If you have a wallet or any kind of anything that facilitates interaction with the blockchain, you're actually required to show people the Constitution and the Ricardian contract, which is super, super easy, by the way. Super easy. We're going to put more and more demos out there, more sample code for people to look at so they understand how to do that. There's going to be work on the referendum. A lot of folks are really interested in the referendum process, so we're seeing some work done on design and maybe even shortly building a sample that could be submitted as sample code and a pull request and go through all the testing process and turn into reference code. I'm hopeful that Block 1 will be helpful in moving that forward. And then in addition to the referendum, the worker proposal system, which is everyone's been saying 6 to 12 months for worker proposals. I'm hearing some impatience that maybe there'll be a really simple version, like the little rope bridge version, not the 4 or 6 lane superhighway across the gorge, but a little rope footbridge that you could get across on one of those survival classes. Right. It's not a high speed throughway, but you could get something across for some kind of worker proposal, which of course relies on referendums. You can't do worker proposals without referendums because you can't get the token holders' approval without referendum.
So it is confirmed that the token holders would be allowed to vote on a worker proposal.
Oh yeah, that's the only way to get them done. The only people that can vote on worker proposals are the token holders. And there's actually, although you may have heard this, that there's a proposal afoot to create a charter, and the token holders would be asked to fund this charter, and then it would, inside of itself, fund a bunch of little projects to do things in a focused area, because you don't want to have to go to the token holders every day with 12 votes on the 82 open projects that are run. It's like crazy. You would get fatigued. Nobody would show up. So it's really important that the token holders' time and mental energy be respected, and they'd be allowed to delegate appropriately with appropriate assurances of oversight and validation. Because I promise you, there's going to be over $100 million worth of worker proposal funds within 6 months. That is an enormous amount of money. People will go after that money. And it must be safeguarded. It must be protected. It must be spent in the way the token holders wish, presumptively for the good of the blockchain ecosystem, to do things like hire external security auditors, to do code reviews, to validate wallets, some people have asked for a compensation fund for people who've been scammed, which some jurisdictions do that, right? There are places in the world where certain counties and cities have that sort of thing. Again, potential for abuse there. So that's got to be safeguarded. Well, how you do that? Again, these are policy decisions. These are political decisions. It's going to be very interesting. And I imagine we'll have lots of long conversations about that.
And speaking of which, if anybody wants to get involved in that discussion, there's a ton of content on the EOS Go forums, which we're asking questions which need to be talked about regarding worker proposals. And Thomas, I believe that's the collection of questions that will help us drive the conversation.
Yeah, the thing that I noticed is that people, when you talk worker proposals, they suddenly get very excited and they want to drive prematurely to answers. And you shouldn't, you mustn't. Because a premature focus, if you leap into solution space too soon, you forget half the questions and they don't even get asked. So I was able to persuade the volunteers working on worker proposals to pause and slow down and go through a questioning phase first, and to surface every imaginable question. And what we basically got is, in the flow of ideas, from the first idea you've got, through elaborating it, to putting it in a votable form, to then, after it's voted on, how do you follow through and make sure that it's done successfully and correctly, and it's not some sort of, rip-off scheme. And how do they, maybe they come back with more questions that need to be decided. How is that done? How do you prevent this whole thing from getting spammed? And all these questions and more need to be answered, so that we've got a worker proposal system that is worthy of this amazing ecosystem and that can stand up to the amount of money flowing through it. I suspect worker proposals will have to hire some staff. That's my belief. It's my guess. Much like Dash has done, the Dash ecosystem have hired independent people to be project managers, answerable to the chain, not to the project. Which is probably really smart. But we'll see. We'll see what the token holders go for. Anyway, I've taken us off into other, governance future hypotheses here.
And there was a estimation that there was going to be some information released on 2 days from now. Is that still the case?
Yeah, June 20th is still the planned date for a release of results so far. And that's the time frame when we're going to ask all of our current volunteers if they want to keep going, if they want to take a breather, see what space there is for new volunteers to step in and get oriented. Because it's really messy if you let people just show up any old time they want to, and then loudly demand that people to bring them up to speed in the middle of a work session, and then they leave halfway through the work session and never return. It's no, you're not going to get world-class results doing that. So we're imposing a little bit of, or a little order and structure to what's still a volunteer-driven system. And so June 20th is when we expect the worker proposal group to release some of their findings so far, some of their thoughts, and an idea of what the next steps are going to be.
And Moti, are you back with us? You hear me okay?
Yeah, I am. Sorry.
You were oddly silent. It took us a while to realize.
Yes, apologies for that.
And we were asking just about going forward the next few weeks in terms of what we can expect from ECAF, what we can look forward to from you guys.
Yeah, sure. So we will be opening the kimono a little bit. I appreciate that there's been a lot going on behind the scenes that is not visible to the public and to the community. So we will, we will be making that more visible. So one thing that you'll see from us in the next couple of hours is a communication around just laying out a little bit more around jurisdiction and how that has played out. We'll also be putting up pages where you can see at least some of the open cases, rulings that have been delivered. And also have a collection of in one place where you'll have arbitration information. Yeah. So that's really the goal for the next few weeks is really opening up and making sure people understand the process of arbitration and how arbitration works. Yeah.
And I would like to, do you expect more of these issues to arise in the next few weeks as well? Or is this just kind of a one-off case that we can expect? Are there other, basically in terms of the next few weeks, can we expect more of these cases to arise like this, or what can we think?
Yeah, excuse me. I've got a frog in my throat. Not because of the question. Excuse me. So at the start of when we started putting in place the ECAF, was something very prescient that some of the advisors that we have to the ECAF told us, which was, you can't predict what will happen within arbitration. And so if you'd asked me, 4 or 5 days ago, if we would have basically what is almost a little arbitration crisis, I would have said, no, we're all set. So I'd like to say that we won't see similar issues, but yeah, you can't predict arbitration. I think that's one thing we've learned. There'll be all kinds of weird edge cases that are going to occur now and in the future, and that's why we have arbitration, because things are messy and we need to have humans involved.
And I was noticing in the Constitution, the interim Constitution that we have, Article 9 says all disputes arising out of or in connection with this Constitution shall be finally settled under the rules of arbitration of the International Chamber of Commerce by one or more arbitrators.
You've got the wrong version.
That's the older version. Sorry.
That's the old version. You got revised. It's almost identical wording, except it's the rules of dispute resolution of the EOS Core Arbitration Forum.
And so my question around that was, so do you guys have the jurisdiction to be able to say, you know what, we actually can in this case? Is there another case that may pop up where you say, actually, you know what, we can, you rule in this particular case?
Oh, absolutely. Any two parties that have both, they might in their response to them, I say, hey, we have a dispute, we want you to solve it, and we're both under the Constitution. Or two block producers, clearly both covered, right? Or somebody who recently joined the chain, not out of Ethereum, and then silent on our side, but active on the chain. There's all kinds of cases you can imagine where people are clearly covered. They've clearly agreed. And if both two or more parties agree to the Constitution, then all of their disputes that arise, from or in connection with their activities on chain, absolutely have jurisdiction inside of ECAF. That's my understanding.
Yeah, that's correct. And I think the idea is, as Thomas mentioned earlier, is that as we put in place, let's say the community puts in place ways to ensure that account holders are presented with the Constitution, then we get increasing coverage across the whole of the EOS community. So in the short term, people who have agreed to the Constitution, absolutely, we have very clear jurisdiction. And in the medium to long term, as we build out the awareness and
Moti, it sounds like you're cutting out a little bit. We just missed a couple sentences there. If you can hear me okay.
I think he said that as we build awareness and coverage, and as we're more and more confident that everyone's been shown the Constitution, had the opportunity to be aware that they're on a system that's in a constitutional system, that you can just more or less at some point just assume that everyone's agreed. And I'm supposed to have a talk later this week with Dan Larimer about, other ways that we can make sure that people are presented, that we can prompt them, that we can store some way of, demonstrating on chain that they, what they've agreed to, and so forth.
Okay. Looking forward, how would this work out for a normal average DApp user? Say we have Steam at 2.0 down the line, and there's just an average person who's posting on there, and they lose their tokens. Would they have to go through all this themselves? How do you foresee that? I mean, I guess it's more of a question of how the structure will build up around it. But maybe this is a strange question, really. But I was just sort of thinking in terms of the average user who's trying to interact with this blockchain on Moti's kind of experience. Who would be interacting with the ECAF? Would it be the end user, or would it be someone kind of acting for them?
In that case, it would primarily be the DApp developer. Do you hear me? I said in that case, it would be primarily the DApp developer who would be interacting with the arbitration forum. Yeah.
Okay, I got you. Okay.
Yeah, and by the way, this came up in the drafting of the Constitution. There will be people whose activities show up on chain, but who don't actually have an EOS account and don't own any of their own tokens, right? So I'd build a DApp and I'm storing things on the chain, but I may never, you're on your phone, right? You're just interacting on the phone, doing something, and you never signed up for EOS tokens. There's no account for you specifically. So who then goes to arbitration? Well, not you, actually. The Constitution says that in a case like that, it is the dApp developer who bears responsibility for whatever happens on chain.
Cool. Well, thank you guys.
And of course, maybe the dApp will also have its own constitution, possibly.
Oh, yeah, you might have your own governance. Absolutely right. We've talked many times here on this show and elsewhere about, creating enclaves, about setting up sub-communities, having your own local governance. I confidently predict we'll have people setting up, maybe even significant size enclaves where there's strong identity, and maybe it's one person, one vote inside that enclave for their disputes. And they might have their own dispute resolution mechanism, probably again arbitration, but it would be maybe their own forum that they set up for things that are wholly contained inside. And it's, again, most people are familiar with like the city ordinance. You'd go to the city about that, but the county might have its own courthouse, and you might have, and then the state might have rules you have to follow, and then a federal entity might, encompass all the states and have its own rules. And you're going to see similar layering here, because you can't expect one blockchain to do everything for everybody all the time. We've got to have local differentiation and local systems and local agreements. That's where we're going to get real widespread use and really, I think, take advantage of the rich, incredibly powerful system that this platform allows us to create.
Right.
Reminds me of what Dan said one time about how the business needs to front all the costs and take care of the customer service and everything else, just so the customer can have a good experience and not have to worry about that kind of stuff. So,
Here. I'm looking for someone to do that for me. Oh, wait, that's my job.
Yeah.
Well, thank you guys very much for coming on, especially on short notice. And I know you guys have a lot going on, so we always appreciate it, especially recently. So,
thanks, Thomas and Moti. It was a pleasure having you on.
Thank you. Yeah.
Thank you both.
Thank you, Moti. Thanks, Thomas.
Cheers. Bye.
Well, Blue Jays, yeah. I had a lot of level heads on the video on the stream here recently. Been good. It's been good to hear the perspective, from folks who are right in the thick of it, and they put it really well. I felt like Thomas just explained it perfectly. And what were your thoughts? Yeah,
I mean, level-headedness. Also, the bigger picture. What's the bigger picture here? We can often get caught up in the details and the blame game and all that. So. Definitely good things to worry about. There are definitely important things that happened here. The precedent has been set. Also, we need to learn what to do in the future, and it's good that it's happened in the first week. I think it's part of maturity of the community and of the chain.
I remember you told me that earlier too in chat. You said, "Hey, it's week 1, and we've had this little incident, right?" It's nothing that important, not that big. Well, I mean, I guess it is important right now, but in the grand scheme of things, it'll just be a little step that we took to learn on how to do things more efficiently and a little better. And really, when it comes to worrying about what the mainstream media thinks and all that, it doesn't matter, right? Maybe they'll pick up on something like this and they'll take and run with it and try to make a big deal out of it. And we've seen that argument a couple times in the chats, right? People are worried about that stuff. It's just short-term thinking, really. But
Fudder's gonna fud, right?
Yeah, go FUD somewhere else. But I remember there's a EOSphere was talking about during the launch party. Remember you and I were all just partying and talking about when launch. Didn't actually happen until a week after we were partying, right?
We were all burnt out from the partying, and then,
EOSphere was like, it's just the long-term vision that all that matters. Let's just get it up and going. There's going to be some bumps, and that's what it is right now. So Let's do some news, Blue Jays. You ready?
Yeah, let's do it.
Okay, so the blockchain was paused this weekend for a little bit. And I think everybody sort of joined up with that announcements group, for the mainnet's announcement group, and just sort of followed along with what was happening. But it sounds like there was a security flood. What did you read into this, Blue Jays? What did you find out when? Well, go ahead and give us your story, your side of the story.
Yeah, so there was a corner case that was introduced in the 1.04 version that did not exist in the 1.03. So when they found that, some people rolled back, and then Block One came out with a fix, and within hours had this thing fixed and also going again. So another great thing to happen on week 1, and another thing that people pounced on and say, well, look at this, it's already faltering, and it didn't. It's old news, and we've upgraded, and things are going to happen like this on a weekly, probably monthly basis, where code is changed for the better, for the betterment of everybody, and it's not going to be that much downtime, if at all. Things may not have any downtime in the future if it's just the smart contracts that need to be updated. That's my take there for that particular issue.
Yeah, and just going over the fixes that they implemented, it looks like, and I love the way they also handle the communication too. They set up a channel, advertised it, everybody got involved quickly and was able to figure out what was going on, right? The block producers upgraded their nodes, and the blocks were replayed to the last irreversible block, and then everybody synced up to each other and then opened it back up for mainnet. And as you mentioned, with like a proof of work chain or proof of stake, it would have been much, much harder. I mean, that's just the power of VPOS, right?
Right, and it was actually the chain paused itself to prevent a fork. So that was the other thing that happened. There was no intervention by anybody. The chain paused itself, and it was not paused by a BP or a consortium of BPs. It was paused by itself to prevent a fork. So that was logic that actually worked.
Yeah. Thank you, Marvin, as well in the chat for clarifying too, and of course the
Thanks,
Bluejays.
Marvin.
But yeah, so and going forward to the next piece of news here, we have so Bitfinex allows EOS token holders to directly vote for block producers through the exchange. This is a new thing that just came out today. It's actually open source software. We've talked about this for a little while now, but it finally has arrived. Looks like. Kind of a good thing, I suppose. I mean, they so like a week ago, they had put out a thing asking if they wanted Bitfinex, if they wanted them to arbitrarily just launch the chain, right? Just vote a bunch of tokens and get the chain up quickly so that they could then release this tool and open voting to more people who are holding on the exchange. And so now this tool is out. It's called the Bitfinex ballot. What are your thoughts on this Bitfinex ballot there, Bluejays? Have you used it personally?
No, I mean, I think I think your wallet should be on EOS. I mean, Bitfinex, obviously, it's in their interest to let you vote there so that you don't have to move your token. I think it's great for their business, and all the power to them. And I'm glad they're actually allowing the vote, so that would mean actually more token holders can vote. So it's a great thing.
Sure. Is there any type of the average exchange person who's holding tokens on the exchange? Do you foresee there being a lot of folks who would go ahead and stake their tokens on Bitfinex and vote?
I would say it would probably be a lower percentage of people, just particularly because if you want to have your tokens on an exchange, you're possibly looking at buying or selling in the long term, in the medium term. So it looks like you might be in flux or something like that, where you may not be in it for the long run, especially if it takes 3 days for it to stake and unstake.
Yeah, good point. That's the main thing that folks should remember. I guess exchange holders, and they'll probably have that. I wonder if they'll also put the Constitution up there as well, Bitfinex, when you're trying to vote. Or if, I guess technically, since the exchange holder is holding on a centralized entity, maybe Bitfinex will absorb that. Who knows if they'll show the exchange, or show the Constitution, rather. That's an interesting thought. But
Nico pointed out, and also I remember Paulo from the CTO of Bitfinex also saying that EOS Finex is turning out to be a pretty sweet product. So that is an exchange based on EOS. So we've heard that concept before with BTS, and I believe they've had Ethfinex. I don't know if it's launched or what the status of that is, but yeah, sounds like EOS Finex is coming out very soon.
Yeah, good stuff. Wonder if they'll use the DUCATUR Oracle Exchange Service. They'll go back and do a hybrid type version, or if it'll be fully decentralized right off the bat.
Right.
Find out. What else do you see in the news there, Bluejays?
So we talked about the ECAF issue and the pause. We've also been seeing a lot of mainstream media type of news regarding. I believe there was a Wall Street Journal article. There's also a Bitcoin.com article, basically saying, "Oh, this launch had a lot of issues," and inside the war rooms, and because it was all public. If you looked hard enough, you can find the launch. I mean, we ourselves live streamed the launch and the go no go decision. So everything was out there for the public to see, and of course we had issues. It's quite a coordination with hundreds of people, but we're here today. No one thought we would be here today and executing on some of the things that were promised to us, the rule of law blockchain. So that's where we are today.
Yeah, and also another piece of news too, moving forward a little bit, but EOS airdrop for Everpedia. There's a check your balance link on the Everpedia network.github.io. We'll put the link up, but I guess basically this is brand new. It looks like you get about 5 times your EOS balance in IQ tokens from Everpedia.
Yeah.
So that famous word airdrop is happening now. Everybody get excited. So I guess now's the time you can check your balance there with this website, and you can see what you'll get, and you can start drooling at the thought.
Yeah, they have an interesting model. They have a 5.1 to 1 ratio. So if you have 100 EOS, you will get 510 IQ.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Yep. If you have 100 million EOS, you get. You don't have to worry about that, Blue Jays. Don't worry about it.
Yeah, that's a problem only you're gonna have, right?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. So yeah, brand new news on Everpedia. We'd been waiting. They said June 15th, but of course the main net took longer to launch than expected, really. So I guess it's up now, and they're making next steps. So I mean, the news has been mostly, it's like we talked about. It's just the mainstream media is going to say what they want to say. It doesn't matter that much because the long term will be exciting, right? So just get through the hard stuff. I think the main takeaways. Thomas, of course, was saying this as well. It's just let's make sure we improve upon the process, as always. Make sure we're starting off with our little rope bridge so far. That's all we have at this point, right? And of course, occasionally some boards will break on that rope bridge, and we'll stumble, but we'll keep getting up and going forward. So
right.
It's all there is to it at this point. So
and I think this is just not the natural course of things. Over the next month or so, after all of these issues are worked out, that's when you're going to see the big DApps drop. Who knows? I could be surprised altogether and something comes out within the next week or so. But my prediction is that when all of these minor issues and the chain has been running for a while, maybe we're at block 3 million or 4. What is it? Yeah,
we're about 1.5 million in right now.
Yeah, maybe we're at block 3 million, and then we see DApps being dropped there. So and that's what I'm most excited about is when DApps, right? When are these DApps going to come out?
Yeah, and then it'll just be you and I talking about these ECAF issues, governance, and everything else. But then the actual end user DApps, they'll just say, "Well, I don't understand what that is. It doesn't make any sense to me.
Right.
I don't need to worry about that. Right? Just got my EOS or whatever token I have, and so on and so forth." So let's do a quick check of the rankings here. Why not? And then we'll go ahead and wrap this up. We just talked about Bitfinex jumping up here, number 3 on the list.
Wow.
List. So they were in like
Bitfinex.
Yeah, right. They were number 9. I guess that release got them a lot of attention, perhaps. So quick jump up there, but Canada number 4, of course, Beijing and Authority. A lot of these names we recognize at this point. EOS Stack number 8 now. They've been dropping a little bit. New York and all those guys. So, and then ZB EOS really came out of nowhere. A couple of days ago, there was some talk about them. I don't remember what it all was about. I guess it was just a surprise. We never heard of ZB EOS before, and then bam, they show up. So, and also NS James is talking about there's 2 new dApps that are live right now, monstereos.com and decentTwitter.com. We should bring up Decent Twitter by Cesar Rodriguez. He's the guy who made EOS Tracker, which is that block explorer that we saw early on. It was really impressive. Have you worked with Decent Twitter yet, Blue Jays?
No, I briefly looked at it. It looks pretty cool. It was just a MVP, a minimum viable product, and yeah, let's get Caesar a team to make a better Twitter or a more decent Twitter.
Yeah, I think he said it was actually at a 3-hour hackathon. He put that together, whipped it up real quick. So that is very, very impressive. I'm not sure how much work he's done on since then and whatnot, but nonetheless, guys, check it out. We put the link up in the chat there, decentTwitter.com.
And the Monster one is live.
Monstereos.com. Yeah, that's the word from NS James, and we always trust everything NS James says, right? So that's up. Let's see if we can get the link for that too. But Monster EOS, I believe, is it like CryptoKitties type of thing? Let's see here. Let's get it pulled up. And Chris is asking about if we're dodging the ZB EOS topic, ZB EOS BP 1111, the one that jumped into the top 21 very quickly. you know much about that, Bluejays? What are your thoughts on that?
Is the issue that they're just producing blocks and they don't do anything else? Is that the commentary?
Well, I guess there was a few days ago, folks were not sure where they came from, and they may have been just voted in by whales, right? It's kind of a teamwork thing. This is all speculation, right? It's just something I saw on Twitter and Telegram rather. But Huobi and ZB EOS possibly voting with exchange users' funds for each other. However, as we know, once the arbitration forum gains some legs, they will be able to rule against something like that, maybe. If there's someone who's been harmed. I think Dan's also chimed in as well the last few days in the governance channel about how we should not just rule against things because it's there, right?
Right.
If someone who's purposely harmed and they have a case to bring, then maybe that's legitimate. But as you said, if they're just producing blocks and everybody's happy and the chain's working well,
exactly.
Hey, they got there. So
free
who knows
market.
how they got? It's free market. Yeah. Yeah, Monster EOS. I'm a Monster Tamagotchi-alike game for EOS blockchain. So I guess you can pet your monster and feed your monster and clean up its defecations.
Is that a feature?
I don't know. That was a guess. But it is. You can use Scatter to use it, so it's legitimate. Pretty much anything. You should never put a private key into a website. Just use Scatter, of course.
Scatter? Who made that?
I don't know. I don't know what Scatter's all about. ScatterEOS.com, folks. Scatter-EOS.com. Get that first before you interact with blockchain applications. We're big fans of Scatter. Obviously, it was one of the first dApps that we saw for EOS. It's been around. You guys all know NS James at this point, and of course, it makes everything. It makes your EOS a lot. Well, helps you secure your EOS, I should say, more effectively. So, get that first before you interact. So, Bluejays, any final thoughts for the week here?
Just love the growing pains. I just like the growing pains. I observe. I see what's going on in the chats. I think that it is necessary and also natural for all these things to go on. And as Milos from Poland, from Emerge Poland said, the community is the strongest part, and us banding together and trying to do the right thing for the benefit of EOS is going to set us apart from everyone else. Yeah,
I agree with that. Well said. And even David P. in the chat, also EOS, he's with EOS 42. They're currently a top 21 block producer. He was saying that we have ZB EOS is not really easy to contact, so it's important. I know you're laughing at the chat right now because I'm sure NS James is saying something extremely witty, as he says.
Yes, sorry,
but ZB EOS is not easily contactable. Other block producers need to be able to communicate, right? If we have some kind of issue like we had this past weekend where we need to implement a patch or an update, all the block producers need to be all on the same page, right? And contactable at any 24 hours a day. And so they are not as easy to get a hold of. They have missed some of the other calls with the other block producer candidates. So it is more than just, producing blocks. They need to be able to do all the functions required of a block producer. And that's 24/7 support and being
that's true.
In communication at all times. Yeah, it's a 24/7 blockchain. So we want to be able to feed and clean up our defecations of our monsters 24/7. That's very important.
You just made that up, didn't you?
Change the diapers, right?
Change the monster's diapers.
Change his diapers. My final thoughts, Bluejays, I agree with you completely. It's the growing pains and the building blocks and the little steps we have to take to get there. That's the fun part to me, right? It's about the journey. This will be something that should be ongoing, right? I mean, that's what this show is about. We're going to bring up all the topics, guys, whether it's just positive or if it's also we need to address something or help get the word out about improvements that should be made. Right. That's part of what we do. I mean, we're trying to just provide information to help empower EOS first and always. Right? That is our job. That's what we're trying to do. So that may sometimes be some hard topics. We'll see. I mean, this particular one, maybe it's been sort of talked about very intensely, right? To put it diplomatically. I'm trying to be like you now, Bluejays, where I just say things. But it's something that will blow over, right? And this will be something we learn from and improve on. So going forward, it'll be exciting. So thank you guys all for tuning in. Bluejays, any final, where should people keep up? What's the next step?
You join us on our Telegram group. We have some good conversation going on in there. I'll just paste it in here. Join us over there. We have gotten many requests to disco on the way to disco. So let's disco out into the sun, Kevin. See you guys. Go EOS.
Go EOS, guys. Thank you.